Good news, Democrats. You can put your 2024 fears to rest because Kamala Harris can assure you that Joe Biden very much alive. Let's listen.
We were talking to some Democratic donors, and they have told us that should something befall President Biden and he is not able to run, that there would be a free-for-all for who would run as president. You are in the spot that would be unnatural for you to step up, but we're hearing from donors that they would not naturally fall into line. Why is that?
Well, first of all, I'm not going to engage in that hypothetical because Joe Biden is very much alive and running for re-election. So
but you do know, I mean, that is a concern and a legitimate concern, I would say.
I hear from a lot of different people, a lot of different things.
Yes, Vice President Kamala Harris sat down for an interview with 60 Minutes this week where she was grilled on President Biden's poor polling leading into the 2024 election. Let's listen to more.
A recent CBS poll found that at the beginning of President Biden's term, 70% of young people under 30, said he was doing a good job. Now it's less than 50%. Why is that? What's going on?
If you poll how young people feel about the climate and the warming of our planet, it polls as one of their top concerns. When we talk about what we are doing with student loan debt, polls very high. The challenge that we have as an administration is we got to let people know who brung it to them. That's our challenge. But it is not that the work we are doing is not very, very popular with a lot of people.
Per the vice president, concerned Democratic supporters need to just trust the process.
Do you have to ask yourself, why are people seeming not to hear our message?
I look at it more as, let's keep getting out there. And as with any election, we got to make our case to the American people. That's part of our responsibility. And that's this process. And that's what it is. And that's a fair process.
I think the strongest message the Biden administration is sending is how they're governing right now. Kamala Harris has been tasked with handling the issue of immigration, has done a terrible job at that. People see what the Biden administration is doing. They see how student loan debt cancellation has gone. They see how the passage of signature climate legislation has gone. He's overpromised and underdelivered. So I think the message has been sent and received, and them saying anything on social media isn't going to change that.
Yeah, it's funny how she frames that. He points out the lagging approval numbers among young people, and then she says, but young people care a lot about the climate. Young people care a lot about student loans. So well, that's true. That means they don't support what they don't think the Biden administration has given them enough on those two fronts. Now, I actually disagree with young people who feel those ways about those issues. I'm not. Yes, a shocker there. So I wouldn't want to see those policies come into existence, and I don't know if he would, gain more voters than he loses, particularly on the student loans front. But that's a different question. If she thinks their problem is that young people are very progressive on a bunch of issues, and they want to get very progressive young people on their side, they're clearly failing. If that's the strategy, if that's the tactic, it's just inarguable that it's not working. And probably if the strategy is to lean on young people, frankly, what they're doing with Israel-Palestine is also not going to be nearly good enough. Regardless of the general sentiment, it's clear younger people are very vocally, strongly interested in Biden more forcefully condemning what the Israeli government is doing, which he's not. I don't think he's at all doing that to the satisfaction of your young progressives. So again, if you're counting on these voters to rescue your presidency, I think you're pretty screwed.
I don't know. It sounds to me like fake news when Kamala Harris says she's not going to entertain that hypothetical. It's your job to entertain that hypothetical. You're the vice president. A part of the job is that if the president dies, you step in. It doesn't really reassure the American people if we're like, well, if Joe Biden's not around, are you ready to govern? And she's like, I won't answer that. Because it sounds like the answer is no. It sounds like Kamala Harris isn't ready to govern. Of course they have contingency plans. Of course they talk about this behind closed doors. And we all know this. Kamala Harris knows this. The man she is answering the questions of knows this. And it sounds really fake when she gives this diplomatic response of, I'm not going to entertain this. There's a reason you want to be vice president. It's because it's the number 2 spot. I think it's ridiculous to assume she hasn't thought about it. They don't have plans in place. I can understand wanting to reassure people that Biden is healthy and well, but also they want to be reassured that the VP is ready to serve if necessary, and she did not give the American people that. And to say that I think our voters will come around, that is not a satisfactory response. She should have said, we're running on a platform of X, Y, and Z. And to all of the viewers watching this, if you're still on the fence, we are going to get these things done. This is what we've gotten done so far. Bidenomics, blah, 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 whatever you want to say. But don't just say, I think they'll get the message. What is the message? You're doing press right now. You're the vice president. Now's your chance. Tell the people what it is. But we don't have one.
Yeah, you're right that it's crazy if she's not thinking about it. Joe Biden is only the oldest president ever, and in kind of obvious physical and potentially mental decline. And even if he was in tip-top shape, we've had 45, 46 presidents. How many of them have not finished out their term because they died in office? This was William Henry Harrison, Lincoln, McKinley, Garfield, Harding, Kennedy. Maybe I'm missing someone. Did I say Taylor? I can't remember. 6 or 7. That's like, you got to help me here. You know how bad I am at math. What is 6 of 45 is a not negligible percentage of times the VP has had to take over, right? And then there's the time Nixon resigned and so forth. So it's not a totally out there experience for the VP for whatever reason to have to step up and finish out the term. So this whole no, that could never happen, I'm not thinking about it, is kind of boggling the mind.
Yeah, he's alive. He's also undergoing an impeachment inquiry. There's a reason Nixon didn't serve again. I mean, he bowed out, but also presidents being impeached is a big problem here, especially for Biden. I don't know if Mike Johnson has the evidence he says he does, but that's also at play here. But their strategy is to just not acknowledge anything, to just say nothing at all. Even the press secretary, it's almost like they get behind the scenes and they're like, all right, as little information as possible, give them no hope. It's absolutely ridiculous. And I think you're right to not rule out that we could have a JFK-like scenario here. I was assuming you would talk about presidents that have gotten sick or have gotten impeached, but I do think, assassination's always a problem.
I was just counting them all.
Presidents,
anytime the president doesn't finish the term. So it's something to be aware of. So anyway, we've been criticized. We've been making fun of Kamala Harris on the show a lot because she just doesn't seem to have this any kind of constituency or any kind of support. I mean, say what you will about Joe Biden, he is, and his declining poll numbers, but he's more popular than a lot of other kind of leading Democrats right now, including his VP. And that's going to be amazing because let's presume he does finish out the term. I think that's likely. She is going to be in a position to be the standard bearer. She's going to have to fight for it, but there will be a lot of establishment support behind her merely because she was the VP. That's how it goes.
Yeah, I really think in a race that's RFK Jr., Donald Trump, and Joe Biden, and Kamala Harris rather than Joe Biden, whether he decides to bow out, he decides to retire, God forbid something happens to him, we don't wish ill on anyone. But let's imagine a world where, they decide, all right, Biden, we've had enough gaffes in public. We really think it's best as a party if Kamala Harris steps in. I don't think Kamala Harris fares well against an RFK Jr. Donald Trump presidency. I think RFK Jr. might start climbing in the polls. I would love to see what a debate like that would look like. And we know Donald Trump has his ongoing cases. It would be a pretty insane world if we had a Kamala Harris, Trump, RFK Jr. presidency. But I honestly am not hopeful for Kamala Harris in that case.
Presidential campaign. That would be truly crazy if we had a presidency with the three of them sharing the seat.
Presidential campaign. Yes.
But they have to run all policies by each other. That would be. I think that's just what happens if you go to hell. All right, that does it for us for today. Thank you for tuning in. Jessica, thanks for being here. I know you'll be back with us later in the week. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe so you never miss any content. And for those of you who like to listen while on the go, we're now available anywhere you listen to podcasts. Bye-bye.
Bye, y'all.